This morning also I opened the newspaper and it says 2 lakh flats unsold. Last week my son sent me an ambit report because I told him you buy an office for yourself, and he sent me an ambit report to say property prices in Bombay will come down by 50%. If you are in South Bombay, that means you will have to sell property at less than what you paid for the land. Now, there are certain advantages of age. But more than that, I have the benefit of having worked for a company which is in various businesses, from automobiles to tractors to financing to real estate to hospitality to now making aircrafts and helicopters. So I have worked in various industries, and so I may not be wise or intelligent like Anuj Puri, but I have seen life. I have seen life. No, I am not telling you, it's not a joke. I am telling you something seriously. I've seen life. And in my life, real estate brings 2 memories. One, this is the only industry, and I have personally at some stage of my life managed 17 businesses, including oil drilling wells, both offshore and onshore, to advertising agencies. So I have seen dunya, as they say. There is no other industry in the world that I can think of which has unlimited demand. When you read, when somebody says trucks are not being sold because the price is high or the quality of the truck is. The trucks are not being sold because there are no goods moving. The mines have gone on strike. The government has put an embargo. But if real estate is not sold, it is because there is a mismatch between what the customer wants and what we produce. And I think that is the single problem with this industry. And that's the good news that I wanted to share with you, that this is an industry, if you have a right product at the right price, and you are not very greedy to make a 30% or a 40% return, you are happy with 10-12% return, there is an unlimited demand. Having said that, the other thought which comes to my mind, it's the most difficult business I have run, purely because of regulatory aspects. Because all this thing that you see in relation to the C-letter word is primarily because this is where politicians put their money. This is where they think the bakras are easy to catch. But on the other hand, we are more responsible for than anybody else. I have at CII platform told you that if you are making parking garages on 20th floors and 21st floors and enclosing it, I don't think an engineer in CII, in municipality, has the idea to think of it. If we have so many buildings which are stuck because they are this thing, we were greedy. We want to get things done which are not as per law. I am standing here in front of you. I have still not shown one quarter where the profit is lower than the previous quarter, and I have not paid a rupee to anybody. But I am happy making 10-12% return. I am happy if the FSI is 1.33, I will do 1.32, 8, 9, 7. But the message that I wanted to give, I am not come here to talk on ethics and this thing, and I am not going to talk about it. I want to talk about 2 things. I want to talk about, please put marketing mind in yourself. When Hindustan Lever designs a shampoo, it does not look at my head. When we design a product, we think in our ivory towers and we want to make what we like. And I learnt in hospitality industry many years ago that please don't bring your likes and dislikes in the menu of the food or the size of the rooms or the decor of the rooms. Do what the customer wants. And trust me, we don't have to sit in gloom and doom. You have to make a product which the customer wants. The second problem that we have is we try to give too much product to investors. And those investors become hawa later in life. And that is what has happened in the NCR area. Because beyond a stage when the investor sees prices are not going up and his bank is telling him paisa de do, you will see a China type situation. Why did the Chinese stock market crash 50%? It did not crash 50% because the fundamentals were down 50%. Because prices were going up, people were borrowing money and buying stocks. Jis din bank ne chabi lagaya, they had to sell and the prices fell. So we in Mahindras do not, I cannot control an investor. But we have never gone to Hong Kong and sold 40 flats to an investor. We don't do it. We don't sell to investors. If you don't sell to investors, because if you sell to investors, you're creating competition for yourself. In good days, he will make money. In bad days, he will screw you. The only problem for which I have not found a solution, and I would like to hear sometime during the day and get some wisdom from some of you here, is the artificial land prices in the market. Now, I have a philosophy for it. My philosophy for it is that if you take any big deal of land, you will find there is an investor behind it. There's some private equity. I don't think anybody is buying big parcels of land at those ridiculous 60, 70,000 rupees a square foot FSI. Am I right, Anuj? And those investors are fair weather friends, because most of the deals that I have seen, the upside is his, downside is yours, because there is a minimum guaranteed return. It is not equity, it is at best quasi-equity. But I have not found, because today since there are buyers, land prices keep going up. It is impossible today, the last deals have been done with land prices converting to in Malabar Hill at 60-65,000 rupees a square foot. उस 3 साल परमिशन का लगा तो 1 लाख रुपया तो आपका लैंड कॉस्ट इंटरेस्ट लेके ही हो गया. So I think somewhere we have to hold on and not pay, because landowner will come down. It is because you are paying the price he is selling it. If tomorrow you start not paying ridiculous prices, market has to find. A lot of them sell land to pay their debt, so they are also in the market to get out of it. Before Sinha throws me out, I just want to wish you all the best. I have a great seminar, but I just want to leave one thought. Go back to the drawing board and think what the customer wants. Those days are gone. When we were children, मम्मी बोलती थी खा लो तो हम खा लेते थे. आजकल के बच्चों को कोई मम्मी बोलेगी ये कपड़े पहन लो, हम पहन लेते थे. आजकल 2 साल की लड़की बोलती है मेरे को ऐसा जूता चाहिए. So life has changed. There was a time when you made a round headlight into a square headlight and you called it Mark III. Those of you who are from the ambassador age will remember. You used to buy a car and then take it to the local garage to fix it. Today you go and buy cars, people compare every 6 months a new model comes out. 1 साल मॉडल नहीं आता है तो आपका मार्केट शेयर गिर जाता है. So please understand those days are gone when anything sold. Please go back and give the customer what he wants, and happy days will be here again. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Arun. As usual, very exciting and delighted to have Mr. Nanda start the session of real estate. And I'm equally delighted to have Niranjan Bhai with us, and really looking forward to his views of what's happening on the real estate. Let me first of all welcome all of you. And this is the 7th edition of the Real Estate Summit under the leadership of CII, and Kaushal and Sandeep have been working hard to put this all together. What we thought would be more appropriate this year was how do we title this and make a full representation of what's happened in the last 12 months. So we said let's title it Re-mold the Change. And there is a lot of change that is happening, whether it is in the world. And why I say in the world is because I feel that the three regions, Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific, are moving in different gears. And it never used to move in different gears. It used to always be in the same gear. Today, America is in the 4th or the 5th gear. Europe, with Greece and Eurozone, disintegrating, is in a problem. And then Asia Pacific, with a big giant China slowing down on the economy, is in a different phase. So the world speed is changing. Within India, various sectors are performing very differently. If you look at the IT sector, it's doing stunningly. If you look at the real estate sector, not yet. If you look at it within the real estate sector, some of the verticals are doing very well. So when we talk about the offices during the day, you'll find that's doing very well. When we talk about the residential, part of it is doing well, part of it is not doing well. You get into the micro markets, some of the micro markets like Bangalore is doing exceptionally well when you compare it with NCR, which is suffering. So really we said let's put together what are the changes and how we are going to mold these changes. During the day we'll have about 40 speakers come in. These are from financial institutions, private equity, developers, corporate occupiers, retail occupiers, giving their views. And I feel, it's going to be a day full of learning, and it's also going to be a day which we'll hopefully enjoy. What I thought was, if I could touch, this morning when I was putting together this, what are the 10 big things that I see over the last time that we did the conference 12 months ago to what we are doing in the backdrop of the economy. Economy is doing pretty well in terms of the GDP growth going up to 7.5%, inflation coming down. We've had 3 rate cuts, 75 basis points, and the fiscal deficit, given the oil price reduction, is narrowing. So in that backdrop, and in the backdrop that at the ground level, when you were to ask the industry, nothing has really changed. What is the 10 impacts in the last 12 months since the Modi government has come in, has made on the real estate sector? So the first one is really, I compared from 2009, what was the construction activity going on real estate at that time versus at the end of 2014, which is December 2014. So at the end of 2009, there was $90 billion of construction. At the end of 2014, there is $240 billion of construction. So really 3 times an increase in the construction activity. What is also interesting is when you dissect that, you'll see that in 2009, it was almost equal between residential and commercial. Residential was 51%, commercial was 49%. When you dissect it in 2014, it's 86% residential and only 14% commercial. So clearly it has moved a lot towards the residential sector, and perhaps that is where some of the issues are coming in. The second, which is an interesting point, is the movement of transparency in the real estate. So within JLL globally, we do it every 2 years, and we put up 120 countries on a transparency index, one being the best, and usually one is Australia for a long time, and then Scandinavian countries and the America and England. And we in 2008 were stacking at number 50. Then 2010 we moved to 41, which is good news. Then it was the bad era, or the black era for India. We actually moved back then from 41 to 48. And then from 2012 we moved again towards the good side, which is 40. On the other hand, China moved at the same speed, but it continued progressing well. And whilst we are today at number 40, China is at number 35. So, better than us, although we started at the same time. So that's the second on the transparency. The third is really what's happening with the office market. The demand in 2015, this year, is going to be much better than what we'd seen in 2012. or 2013 or 2014. So it's going to be one of the best years that we're going to see in a set of 4 years. So we're looking at about 30 million square feet of demand, which is about 3 crore square feet within this calendar year, out of which 1 crore square feet is just Bangalore itself. And the balance 2 crore square feet is spread out across the various cities. The vacancy levels have come down. If you were to look at the CBD, Central Business District, it's less than 10% today. It was at 17%, so really less than 10%. The rentals have been going up, except one city which has come back to its peak rental of 2008, which is Bangalore. No other city has come back to its peak rental of 2008. And when we talk of residential, all the cities have crossed their peak capital values of 2008. So it's quite a stark difference that on the offices, we're still below the peak rental of 2008. If you were to just compare rupee to rupee, Bombay is 65% of what it was in 2008. So in 2008, the rentals in BKC was 320, 325. Today we are at 240 only, after 7 years of an inflationary environment. What's happening on retail? I think contrary to a lot of people, my thought is that is going to be a very encouraging sector. You're going to see, contrary to people saying that there's going to be e-commerce, we are finding a huge amount of interest coming from foreign retailers. Domestic retailers continue to expand. The good malls where you have got good design, circulation, tenancy mix, proper mall management, you're seeing the rentals go up. In a place where we're sitting, the rentals here used to be about 250, 280. Today they're at 700, and you've got a queue of retailers. You'll have invariably between 11 to 15 retailers vying for one shop at 700 rupees, and they're all making money, even at 700 rupees. It's not that at 700 they're losing money and they're here to just promote their brand. So I feel retail will be interesting. You'll see over the next few years for it to come back. 2014 was the lowest supply of retail real estate. Only one mall opened in 2014. When you compare it to 2007, one mall a week was opening. And in 2014, only one mall for the full calendar year opened. Residential, and we're going to wait Narendran Bhai to speak about it. I think it is a very interesting segment. So there are some pain points on that. I feel is that the developers like Mahindras or Hirandanis or Godrej's, who have had the financial discipline, who have delivered, who have focused on quality, who have protected their reputation, and more importantly, as Arun said, is who have looked after their customer, have continued to do well. I genuinely feel as they've increased the prices more than anything else, and the customer is still willing to go back to those guys because they just feel that there is safety, protection, delivery of quality, timely delivery, and that there is a financial closure of the project, and they don't mind paying a 10-15% premium to those. The seventh point, I'm going to try and quickly cover the balance three, is on capital markets. So since the beginning of the FDI regulation opening up in the real estate sector, there is about $22.5 billion of equity that came into India within the real estate sector. Today, if you were to look at it, majority of that is going in buying core assets, which is completed office buildings. In fact, Blackstone, many of you would know about that fund here, is the largest office occupier, largest office owner in India. It's even a larger owner than DLF. Today, it's got 28 million square feet of office buildings. In a span of 5 years, it's just gone out and bought so many office buildings across Bombay, Pune, NCR, Bangalore. We've had several other funds like GIC, Government of Singapore, Canadian Pension Fund, Brookfield, all of them going out and buying completed assets. The yield has come to around 9% for grade A buildings, and we're going to see more and more FDI getting attracted within that space. Government policies, that remains a bit lackluster. A lot of announcements that were done, a lot of allocations of money, 70,000 crores given onto infrastructure. To Arun's point, that why is the land prices still not coming down? Because really very little of this money has gone in building the infrastructure. Unless you build the infrastructure, you open up large parcels of land, land prices are unlikely to go down. 100 smart cities that are going to be produced, housing for all by 2022. I think a lot of it that has been announced, we need to see what the implication of that is going to be on the ground level. REIT was announced, there was a lot of euphoria, but apparently it's again got stuck within the tax regulation where the dividend distribution tax perhaps doesn't work for the players who want to do the REIT. So on the government policies, I would say it's still a wait and watch. The ninth and 10th, two important points. The ninth is sustainability of business. And by sustainability of business, I don't really mean that you need to do a lot more green buildings. It is important to do green and make sure that you're using renewable energy and renewable resources. But what I mean is sustainability of business is to be able to bring in trained manpower, to be able to bring in gender diversity within the real estate forum. And I've said that over the last 2-3 years, it is important. Today I'm delighted that there is a little bit more gender diversity. I remember 3 or 4 years ago when I had said that we had probably half a dozen female, in the full hall. Today, at least it appears there are 24 females. So it is improving on the gender diversity. But equally, it is important to make sure that we are training the manpower to come in. We are mechanizing the production, we are institutionalizing, we are bringing in more efficiency and productivity. Again, I'm saying, Arun made an extremely important point, I don't know how many of you picked it up, that the profit margins are not going to be 30-40%, which the developers have been used to. This is going to become an industrial play. This is going to become an institutional play. You will have to focus on efficiency. You'll have to focus on productivity. It is 12-15%, and that's why these people are continuing to do so well, because they have just institutionalized it. They have taken away whatever pilferages were happening, whatever inefficiencies in the system were, and putting it back for the consumer. And the last point, this is really my opinion, and I wanted to lay that down, I think is there is going to be consolidation in this industry. I don't think the industry, the way we have seen in the last 10 years, is what it is going to be over the next 5 years. I think the good developers, corporate developers, some of the overseas developers will continue to consolidate their positioning. They will bring in more transparency, they'll bring in more governance, they'll bring in more customer-centric focus, they will institutionalize the real estate. And how that is going to happen is that the smaller developer is not going to go bankrupt. But the smaller developer is going to go to the bigger developer, and he's going to say I have no money left to complete this project. I have got all the approvals, I have built it half, but I have no money left. Can you please take it as a joint venture? Can you please take it as a joint development? Can you please help complete it? Can you brand this project? That is the only way that this consolidation is going to happen. If people are thinking that there are going to be large-scale bankruptcies announced, it is not going to be. If people are thinking there's going to be a large-scale M&A that is going to happen, unlikely a developer is going to sell to another developer, the full company. What they are going to do is that a project which has got stuck, but is a good project, has all the approvals, and the bigger developer is willing to take that on, is where you're going to see the joint ventures and joint development. Otherwise, there is no other way for many of the financially indisciplined developers to get out. And unfortunately, a lot of the consumers who bought in those projects are the ones who are going to get stuck. And that is when you're going to see the legal system come more heavily on this industry and perhaps bring in more regulation. So I hope, through the day we see a lot more debates, a lot more different points of view, a lot more sharing of knowledge, and hopefully some of the answers that we are seeking, I'm sure we're not going to get all the answers, but at least we'll be able to get some direction in where this sector is going to get headed with so many senior people coming and talking to us today. With that, can I please invite Niranjan Bhai to come in and give his thoughts and views on where the sector is likely to be over the next few years. So Niranjan Bhai, over to you.
Thank you, Anuj, for the 10 commandments. Now you have, for your benefit, probably the most experienced real estate player in the country. A person I hold in very high esteem, and I think we should all pay attention to what he's saying, because he's a man who brings wisdom and practical experience together. Thank you. Thank you, Niranjan, for being with us today.
It's a big certificate. So, sir, thank you so much. Salam to you.
But after 10 commandments, it will be difficult.
Hello. I have the highest regard for Arun and also Anuj. Both of them are highly professional people coming from the professional world, which have made paradigm change in the real estate field. Both of them have created that professional touch, which made a difference in the real estate field completely. When the Mahindras came in, everybody said, "Yaar, Arun kya karega? वो तो इंडस्ट्री का आदमी है, उसको जमीन का क्या पता, उनको कंस्ट्रक्शन का क्या पता, उनको मार्केट तो पता ही नहीं है, वो तो यूज्ड टू है मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करने के लिए." But he made that paradigm happen in the real estate, and that's where corporates came in, and that paradigm still exists in such a beautiful way that it brought respectability into the line more than anything else, and I think that paradigm is something here to stay. So congratulations, Arun, for that great thing that you introduced into the Mahindra Group, and we all value that kind of imposition. Talking about Anuj, Anuj has led JLL into a new paradigm. This paradigm has brought people from the international field to look at India with a difference. When he talks to people, he tells them that you got to respect what India is and what it gives to you. You have to understand what India is and what it gives to you, and you have to understand that India is different than any other market of the world, and that over a period of time he has been able to get those people to respect what he says, and the direction which he gives is something which is there, and he has got us a lot of business, so I have to thank him for that also. At the start, I think we all need to think about what Mr. Narendra Modi wants to do. He wants in the next few years to see that there is housing for all, and he has an objective and a direction which is meaningful, because he sincerely believes in that direction. So he has set a goal by which you will get housing for all, and that is what he intends to do in his mind, and he has set a role on for the purposes of this. So irrespective of what CII has to say, or Hiranandani has to say, Mahindras have to say, or all the newspapers and magazines have to say, there is an objective in the mind of the Prime Minister of India that he wants to make a difference. But in order to get that to the target of what he wants to do, what is it that the paradigm that we need to see? Let's take 2-3 small examples of successes which have taken place in the last couple of years. I'll give you one example of something I have over here. I have a mobile phone. This is a 6 plus something which cost about 61,000 rupees for a mobile phone that I bought. And in between, I lost a mobile, and I told my driver to buy a mobile phone for me, because I needed it overnight, and I told him, you get the chip and everything, and as far as that is concerned. And he bought this phone for me, and I casually asked him, how much does this one cost? And he said, cost 1,250. And he said that he got the chip free, because otherwise the chip would cost him 350 rupees, but he got a chip free because you bought a Nokia phone. So I got a discount, so if you minus 1,250 by 250 even, it's less than 1,000 rupees. And the second phone I don't use for all the fancy purposes like WhatsApping to a girl or anything like that. So you really needed this for your personal use as a backup telephone, which was sufficient. So what has really happened is that the mobile industry is now catering for the richest, best. The people of industry like Mr. Ashok Monani wants to use all the fancy stuff that he needs to do for his projects, and he wants to put the air conditioning on from his mobile app and stuff like that. And Mr. Arun Nanda wants to control the productivity of his helicopters which are going to come out of Mahindras. He will still use this mobile app. But my driver and talks to his wife every day in Bihar at less than 1 rupee a minute on this mobile phone, and costs less than 1 rupee because he uses the same service provider, and he's able to talk in Bihar to his wife, I think. So that type of advantage which you can do at the lowest cost possibility of doing it. It doesn't mean that the utilization of this segment is not going to continue. People like all of us, people who are sitting over here, will use the high-end laptops, the high-end connectivity, the high-end cost, ineffective cost, but at the highest end of the cutting edge of technology and cost that we really need to do, and the BMWs and the Mercedes and the Bentleys that Mr. Monani has. So we will have that advantage of the two things of the extreme that you have, and this is where real estate has really gone wrong. We are now looking at customers only from the Mercedes-Benz of the world. We are looking at it from the point of view of seeing what is the upper end of the crust of the triangle that we want, not understanding that 97% of the population of the city wants this type of mobile house, which you need to create in order to provide the productivity. This is the second story that I want to add for the benefit of people who don't understand where Mr. Arun Nanda is coming from. Many people say that when you price your product higher, you make higher profits. But if you go into airlines, you find that the full fare paying airlines like Jet Air are making losses. But those which are low cost airlines which charge very low fares. The lowest fares is charged by Indigo. And because they charge lowest fares, they make highest profits. What is this? I didn't understand what I said. The airline Indigo charges the lowest fares as compared to the high-cost airline and makes more profit than any other airline and has less debt than the high-paying airlines. So we have to think of the new paradigm of what is really going to happen in the real estate field in the next couple of years, because you'll have to change from the only production of this kind of housing that we are used to, and also move into the segment of this kind of housing, which I think is the paradigm which Mr. Narendra Modi is talking about, that we need to really understand between ourselves for the purpose of next year. In order to do that, of course, there are lots of things which Mr. Modi will have to do. One is, of course, land cost. Land cost has only increased by 4-fold in the last 5 years. It's just increased 4 times in every segment of society. And government, of course, with the land bill has increased it by 4-fold throughout the countries. And, of course, the collections which has increased. Our local governments also decided that they need to collect more money. So all taxation which is there relating to that. Today, out of an affordable house, Mr. Nanda, if you sell a house for 3,600 rupees, 1,200 rupees is the component of taxes. 1,200 is the composition of taxes. So you can't possibly bring lower cost housing if you want to compete and get into the segment that we are talking about. There is no other way but in order to rationalize the taxes, in order to do that, as well as to make availability of land. The second part of the whole story today is the fact that all authorities are separately taxing. The central government has decided they want service tax. So if today I go and buy a house which has got occupation certificate from ICTA, I don't have to pay service tax. But if I'm a poor person and I want to buy it on installments while he's constructing the building, I pay 5% service tax. So there is an inequity even in taxes. The poor man pays more taxes than the rich man as a percentage, simply because he can't afford to buy a ready house which has got occupation certificate. So the inequities are to such an extent, and they are going on for so many years, and every department and commissioner that comes into the municipal corporation increases those taxes to such an extent that in the last 4 years, the tax collection from real estate has only increased tenfold. Tenfold. Not 10%, not 20%, not 100%, tenfold. So the increase in taxes, development charges and others have increased tenfold. If this continues to happen, Mumbai cannot become a rational city. So we'll put all these asides and all these well-meaning things. So what does really we need to do? One of the facts which Mr. Nanda attuned to was infrastructure. And I think one of the best parts of what Mr. Devendra Fadnavis is targeting to do, and I'm very happy to support him, and I think CII has also stated on various forums, but I want to repeat it. There are 5 things which he has brought about in the city that he wants to do. 5 of them being Cross Harbour Bridge, because we need to add more land to the city's peripheries, just like has been done in the NCR region where the prices have fallen. We need metro to come in. We waited for the British to make railway lines, Western Line, Central Line and Harbour Line. After that, except for that one cross going on Andheri to Ghatkopar, we have not done any line. Most of the countries and cities in the world have made 100, 200, 300, 400 kilometers of land. I went to Shanghai. They've made only 350 kilometers of metro in their city of Shanghai. And when I asked them, how many years did you do it? He says, we've forgotten how many years we took to take it, but in the next 5 years, we want to make 550 kilometers of metro. So it's not about what it is, it's a need and necessity that we need to do. Mumbai has a Pinjal River project, which will cost about 8,000 crores, but it will bring 24/7 water to Mumbai. It's one of the targets to doing. 8,000 crores is nothing for a city like Mumbai, which has a huge collection of all this. Also, the problem which we continue to face, in spite of what the government has been talking about, is the fact that the corruption has increased, not reduced. At the operational level, corruption has definitely gone up. In fact, it's almost gone to the extent of extortion. So a large amount of people who want whatever certification that you need at every operational level, there's a huge amount of corruption. It's certainly not reduced. All this talk has reduced at the highest level. Yes, it has. And I think that's quite apparent and known to everybody. But at the operational level, it's become worse, not worse. I think the newspaper should stop using the words corruption, because it should be called extortion. So it's gone far beyond the thing. Mr. Arun Nanda confirms that. So you have a corporate world also confirming whatever we have to say. The other aspects of it is the irrationality of many of the things that have really happened over here. For instance, we've been talking about reclamation not to be done. You have to understand, Mumbai is a creation of reclamation. The whole of Marine Drive was reclamation. But when we did reclamation, we also made green areas. So when we reclaimed Marine Drive, we made the Islam Gymkhana, the Catholic Gymkhana, the Hindu Gymkhana, the Parsi Gymkhana, the Wankhede Stadium, the University Ground, and also the CCI Club. But when they reclaimed Nariman Point, they reclaimed only the buildings. The garden area, which was supposed to stretch from Nariman Point up to, what's the other side? Cup Parade. Between Nariman Point and Cup Parade, there was to be a 300-acre garden. So they forgot. Of course. Gardens are forgotten, but the buildings were not. So whatever construction was done. So I was suggesting in the new development plan, why not make a garden which stretches right from Nariman Point up to the other end of the position. So I think what we really need to do in all these things is, we have to think far, we have to think like Mr. Modi is thinking of. For instance, the salt pan lands. The salt pan lands are lands which are 4,000 acres, which are available in the city of Mumbai and can be developed for the purposes of affordable housing. You can make 5 lakh houses in the next 5 years at a very ridiculous cost of construction of 2,000 rupees construction cost. And we can solve the problem of all the deficit that we have in housing for small houses in the next couple of years. It can be contracted out, there can be a PPP system, and we can do it. So the target which Mr. Modi has made is possible, even in a city like Mumbai. So many times people say, Mr. Modi's target is so big and far away, it cannot be achieved. That's ridiculous. His target is appropriate, correct, possible, doable now. But the point is, we need to action the talk. We can't possibly talk. That's not enough to do. So all the project, and Navi Mumbai Airport, of course, is something which is being taken off. So we need to do infrastructure. We need to take the policy on land. We need to look at the taxation position. We got to walk the talk that we need to do. We can change the position of slums and rehabilitation of those. We brought in a policy which is there, but it's not working. We need to make a paradigm change in those policies in order to make slum policy effective. It's possible to do so. There's no reason why it cannot happen. There are a lot of intermediaries who are creating problems in relation to this. I think it can be done. The judges have been giving good proactive orders in the courts also for the purposes of the slums rehabilitation. There's nothing wrong with what has happened. I think we need to take it very much faster, quickly and all. There's one big hope that I wanted to do. And there's a one... Somebody's pressed a button where I should stop. Hello. Sorry, I'll finish in 2 minutes. whoever did the stop just now. The other big project which I feel is really going to make a difference to Mumbai is a project called Naina. Naina is a land which is only 2 times the size of the whole of Mumbai. This is the land identified by the state government and by Mr. Devendra Fadnavis to create a Bombay which is beyond Navi Mumbai, stretches to Panvel, stretches to Alibag, that we really need to do. This project's planning and direction is there already done. If that is done, it will bring down the prices of real estate by at least 50% in that segment. But the pace of development of that project is too slow. We need to make it go much faster along with the infrastructure. If that is done, it's possible. Take the situation of Alibag. The Alibag cross situation is such that, and we have the best beaches in Maharashtra on that coast. We can make it the tourism destination of India, if not Maharashtra. And Mahindra Lifestyles should put up some homes over there also, because that's really a beautiful place where we can do. You have that timeshare scheme for doing. Alibag would be a fantastic place to add your list of items to do. But Alibag can be a better destination than Goa and Kerala put together. Today, Kerala and Goa take away all the tourism of India, and that's the destination which all the foreigner people go, and that's the destination. If Maharashtra could put infrastructure into place across the harbor of Mumbai, takes 20 minutes by speedboat, could go to Alibag, and you can have ro-ro boats which have been proposed for the last 30 years to do, which was done in Hong Kong. And in Goa 45 years ago, we had a cross where you used to put your cars in the ferry and do it. If we did it across Cross Harbor, we'll be able to do it. So what I wanted to share with you, my friends, is that Mr. Modi's program to create affordable housing is a doable. It's not possible. There is a lot of money in low-cost housing, provided we can focus on it and government rationalizes the taxes, the clearances, and the time taken to clearances has not reduced. It has increased. It used to take 6 months to do. It takes now 3 years to get a plan sanction. So we need to rationalize what we want to do in the future. If we do it, Mr. Modi's objective of low-cost housing, the doable of creating quality of life for Mumbai and its region and this country can take a paradigm. We can create economic prosperity for India and hope for all the people and the youth of this country to look towards India at a great place. I can tell my children and grandchildren that this is the place where the future is, and it is, provided I think we all in industry, CII's leadership, people like Anuj Puri, people like Mr. Mahindra, people like Mr. Mohanani and all of you here today can make that difference in order to create this country into a beautiful place. Thank you very much for the patience of hearing me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hiranandani, for your very enlightening address. Now I'll quickly move to the next item of the session, next agenda item of the session. May I request Mr. Hiranandani and Mr. Nanda to release the CII jail report on Indian real estate heading towards a tectonic shift.
Thank you, Niranjan Bhai. That was, truly interesting. So we've had a, great beginning for the day. We had Mr. Nanda talk to us about the customer focus and clearly the land prices not going down, having an impact on the overall costing of the real estate. So, 2 very important points, land pricing and making sure that customer focus remains in there. I think Niranjan Bhai, a lot more positive and saying that there is an ability to get into a new paradigm, meet up with the vision of Narendra Modi Housing for All by 2022, provided there is ease in taxation and reduction in corruption, and overall timelines for approvals get sorted out. Clearly, Niranjan Bhai, there seems to be a lot of opportunities in being able to bring in the infrastructure and ability to create nearly 5 lakh homes at very affordable costs. So I like what Niranjan Bhai said at the end, that if you were to rationalize all the impediments that are there for real estate development, there is going to be economic prosperity, and Maharashtra will certainly be a gainer with that. So thank you very much, Mr. Nanda and Mr. Hiranandani. Thank you for sparing your time, and great speakers and great visionaries who've started and kicked off the session for today. We're now going to break for about 15 minutes, have a cup of tea, and then we're going to be back in the room for our next session. So thank you very much.